Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 118, where we are going to talk about re-enchantment, from a rut to deeper love than ever. But before we dive in, I want to ask you, how are you today? Have you asked yourself that today? Has anyone else asked you that today? I'm asking you because I genuinely care. Although I know that I can't hear your answer, I just wanted you to know I do care how you are today. I myself am doing really well. I've had the sweetest time lately in the in-between moments of our regular living with my husband. We've just been having lots of laughter together, lots of silly, loving, joking together, and just a lot of supportive, loving conversations. And it's just been reminding me and reconnecting me with how much I want the same for you. How deeply I want other highly sensitive women to have the kind of connection and love and relationship with their significant other that I feel so blessed to have created with my husband. So on that note, before we dive into the topic today, which will help with all of that, I want to share with you another exciting opportunity that I would love for you to take advantage of, which is my free upcoming workshop called 3 Invisible Steps to Deeper Love Than Ever Between You and Your Significant Other. Today's episode is actually going to lay somewhat of a foundation for this, so definitely don't miss this workshop. It's going to take you deeper. It's going to give you 3 actual skills to start moving your marriage towards deeper love than ever. And this is a workshop in the truest sense of the word, in that you're not just going to be listening to me teach. You're going to be applying what you're learning in the moment on the call so you can make some real positive shifts then and there. And you can walk away with actionable, tangible things you can start applying right away to shift things in your relationship so that you start feeling more connection, more lightness, more ease, and that sense of security and loving intimacy that I know you want to be forefront in your marriage. This free workshop will be happening Saturday, May 19th at noon Eastern Time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific Time and 5 p.m. London Time. And there'll also be a little Q&A session at the end where you can ask any questions you have about taking this work further through my program, Treasured, which, by the way, is enrolling right now. It's the fastest, most loving, most fun way to, as a sensitive woman, take your marriage from where it is now, wherever that is. If it's hard, if it's just a little bit struggly, a little bit of a rut, or even if it's good and you just want to make sure it stays great. Treasured is the way to bring that deeper love alive between you and your spouse and keep it that way for life. Doors close for Treasured this round on May 22nd, and they won't open again for some months down the road. So I highly recommend not waiting. Don't put off making these changes in your marriage. And if you do have some questions you want to ask me directly, or you want to ask one of the past participants who will be there, she's kindly dedicating her time to questions you may have about the program. Anything you want to know about Treasured. So show up to the workshop. To sign up, go over to www.lifeisworthloving.com/deeperlove. Or head to the direct link in the show notes. All right, let's dive into today's topic, shall we? I am thinking of today's episode actually as part 3 of kind of a series. If you missed episode 116, definitely go back and listen to that one at the minimum. You don't have to listen to that before this one, but it's highly recommended to go back and listen to that one. And Then episode 76 is kind of the very first one. I know that's a ways back. That one's kind of the introduction, kind of an overview. Really good one to listen to. It's called 3 Phases to Mature Lasting Love. Last week's, we really looked at what disenchantment is. What I'm today calling a rut you may be in your marriage. And that really feels like, dissatisfaction, more conflict than you'd like, or maybe sense of dullness and distance. Basically just unhappiness, less happiness than you want, right? I know that's a big category, but that sense of disenchantment can really span a pretty wide category of experiences. So last week, we kind of looked at that more in depth, like what it actually is. And we talked about 3 reasons it's so common to fall into. And one big reason that I want to say a word or two about today is that, in the beginning, you probably saw your spouse in a somewhat glorified way, like in those early honeymoon period days. Right? And it turns out that your spouse, that person that you're with, isn't always that glorified version of themselves, or you don't see them in that same way. And that is because we all, in the beginning, fall in love with an illusion. And we haven't been taught how to love real humanness so well. The messy flawedness of being human, the problems that humanness inevitably brings with it, right? In episode 116, I talk about a few other things, so definitely have a listen if you haven't yet. But truly, I want to say this loud and clear, it is a myth that the love and connection and attraction and joy in each other that we find in the early days should stay like that. That same flavor, that same intensity. Because the truth is it really can't. And it's actually very unsustainable, especially for a highly sensitive nervous system like you and I have. Like that intense, in love feeling that just is so consuming. Not actually great to stay in that space for a long time. And the reality is you are up against some real things, some real true things that happen, including how our brains are, which I want you to go back and listen to last episode if you're like, what is she talking about? You're up against some things that make that early glorification, that just total utter delight in each other, not something that's realistic to maintain all the time. But you can have something better, something that's deeper, more sustainable, really a more genuine love and connection than ever. And that is what today is about. But first, I want to give you a happy reminder. When you find yourself in this rut that I'm talking about, this disenchantment space that almost all of us move into, unless we learn how to not go there, which is possible if you're not there yet. So if you're listening, you're in a good relationship and you just want to keep it that way, you can when you learn how. But if you're already in disenchantment, this is the good news. It doesn't have to be a problem. And in fact, it can be kind of a good thing. You can use this rut as fuel to move towards the next and very best phase. Because that lack of vibrancy that you might be feeling, that discord that you might be experiencing, the frustration, right? Whatever it is that's kind of not so great between you and your honey, that's often just what's needed to wake us up and propel us to learn what we need to learn to make love vibrant and lasting for the long haul, to learn how to have the truest love possible. Which, in my experience, both in myself, my own marriage, and my clients, the most really deepest, lasting, true love comes from learning to love the human our partner turned out to be. Right? So what I mean by that is when the veils fall, and we get to see him or her for real, how this person that we thought was so incredible handles living life when it isn't all rainbows and daisies. how they handle a bad day or, whatever challenging things that inevitably happen in our lives. So learning to love all of who our person turned out to be unrestrictedly, and honestly doing the same for ourselves. Not just in those times when our partner's turning their loving eyes on us, but when he can't, or when he's having a hard time, or when he's distracted. But my point here is really, sometimes we can't learn to love so unrestrictedly, both ourselves and our partner, without slipping a little or a lot into disenchantment. But when that happens, it is our signal to learn to love who they turned out to be, who we turned out to be, right? It's our signal to move on through this place of disenchantment, right? And not get stuck there for the rest of your lives, like many people do, or else they divorce, right? It's our signal to move into the next phase, a more mature, evolved, deeper, and more genuine love than you've known before, where you feel more love and connection and really the sense of being on a team in life together than you ever have. And as you've probably heard before, I call this place Real-Enchantment, or what I like to say even better is Real-Enchantment. Falling in more love than ever in your marriage, but a real, sustainable, sustained, clear seeing love. Loving your person with their very human realness and having that reciprocated. Being loved for all of who we are, both by ourselves and our significant other. So let's talk a little bit about what it's like here in Real-Enchantment. And maybe a bit of how it varies from those early days that I call blind love, right? Those glory days. So Real-Enchantment feels reminiscent of those early days. But it's no longer based on false understandings of each other or loving an illusion of each other, right? You know this real person. You've been through the trials and tribulations of life together. You know their annoying habits and their weird quirks, and you've shown them yours. And nonetheless, you feel a sense of lightheartedness with each other, security, ease, connection, and of course, love in your marriage as the norm. And you feel that even if your partner is like in busy mode for a few days or a few weeks, or if they get grumpy or a little irritable, or they don't follow through on something they told you they would, or even if you have a conflict, right? You get back to that sense of lightheartedness really easily. You feel like the challenges of living on a day-to-day basis are faced supportively together. And the things on your to-do list, whatever it is you have to do, they get done with a sense of collaboration and ease together. And you communicate easily. So it's not hard to resolve any issue, anything that comes up, and really come out the other side feeling close, or even closer than you've ever felt. When you are in this space of Real-Enchantment, laughter bubbles up as you joke together here and there. You're filled up with these little moments here and there, like I call them micro moments of connection, of affection, of passion. And they just feel like they're kind of woven into your daily lives together. And you just know that they're going to continue and even grow more potent, more frequent as you each grow in your capacity to love more clearly and fully. And that's part of it. There's just this sense of like trusting each other, that you are ever deepening your love and connection and sense of being on the same team in life together. And there are these moments, right? And of course I'm speaking from experience, just so you know. Like where you look at your partner across the table while he's like blabbing about this or that, or, just rambling on about something. And you just get struck with this feeling, this like heart-swelling feeling of just loving this person and being really lucky to have them in your life. And of course, you feel mutual attraction. So you like looking at your partner and you know they really like looking at you. An affectionate touch is just natural and normal between you. And lovemaking happens with a sense of genuine connection and true pleasure. And there's this overall resting sense of just being held in love in your relationship, that all is well between you and your person. And really that you are a treasure to each other, and your future together is something you treasure and look forward to. And you just know that together you're going to be good, even with all the challenges that life can bring us. So that is a little taste of that. If you're interested in hearing sort of a deeper explanation or illustration of this, go listen to my podcast episode, The Amazing Human Marriage. That one really paints a picture of this place of real enchantment, or what I have called an amazing marriage. Now, I want to make sure you understand that getting here, being here, is not effortless. Staying here is not effortless, right? In this place of real enchantment, there is growth and conscious effort that are part of the kind of landscape, right? And getting to this place means initiating that conscious effort. And there's just no getting around that. So let's dive into this. Like, what is that conscious effort specifically? So I'm actually going to tell you more of these skills that you need for that, like the specific skills of this in the workshop. So make sure to sign up for the 3 invisible steps to deeper love than ever. But let's circle back to something I've told you before. What it takes, in the most general sense, this conscious effort that I'm talking about to get to real enchantment is about those 3 things I've talked about before. You remember those 3 things I talked about in the 3 simple things you must be able to do to have an amazing marriage? That was episode 105. They are the answer. They are the conscious thing you must learn to be able to do, the 3 things, to get to real enchantment and to stay there. So here they are again. Number 1, love and believe in the being you are. Sensitivity and all. 2, know how to move through and out of negative emotions that hurt love if stuck in them. 3, know how to move into emotions that foster love and connection that keeps increasing. So those are the 3 places you really need to put effort into. In other words, you need to learn how to do that in order to get to real enchantment. And it is simple, but it's not necessarily easy. It takes learning. It takes developing a collection of skills. Like each of these primary skills is made up of a small collection of skills. So it's not like you just know this information and suddenly you do it perfectly or know how to do it at all. So today I want to illustrate kind of these 3 things in action. So not teach the skills or give you the little collection of skills, because that actually takes some time, which is why I offer Treasured. We do that in Treasured in a deep, thorough way. But today I want to paint a picture of what someone is doing who is on her way or has made it to real enchantment. And again, if you want to actually learn 3 of these little skills, like little bits of this yourself for free, you've got to come to the workshop on the 17th. So definitely sign up. The link is in the show notes. But for now, let's paint a picture. Let's imagine like if you were a fly on the wall watching a woman who was in this space of real enchantment in her relationship, or moving out of disenchantment and on her way to real enchantment. This is what she would be doing and on a day-to-day basis. Now, I'm talking about these in sort of a generalized sense because everyone who's doing these is, it's in their own unique life with their own unique partner. So, which means, it's just going to look a little different from person to person since we are not cookie cutters, and that's a beautiful thing. And actually, in a few minutes, I am going to give you a more specific example so you can really imagine it like in a real specific situation. All right, so this woman in Real-Enchantment is living her values. So that means she's showing up as the person she believes people should be. So, for example, if one of her values is kindness, that means, if she thinks other people should be kind, if she thinks people should be kind, that means she chooses kindness even when her partner isn't being so kind. Or if her value is respect, that means she's respecting and being respectful even when her partner isn't being so respectful to her. If her value is acceptance, that means she's working to accept her honey, even with all his annoying habits, and even if he isn't able to do the same for her. Another thing she's doing is she's leading love. She's going first, meaning like she's saying the hard things from a benevolent, loving intention. She's saying the loving thing, even if it's awkward or vulnerable. She's treating her honey how she herself wants to be treated. And she's treating herself how she wants to be treated. So that's what leading love means. There's a whole episode on it. It's episode 5 if you're interested in more. She is thinking intentionally. This means she's noticing her mind and working with its negativity bias and that lizard brain, and she's guiding herself back to thinking from her wise brain, her higher intelligence centers. And she's developing on purpose thought patterns that generate understanding, acceptance, love. She is caretaking her own feelings. So that means she's soothing herself and tending to her sensitive nervous system and her trauma responses. So like if an argument or a triggering interaction comes up, she doesn't fall deep into blame or instantly trying to get her partner to understand or instant fix kind of thing. But she first comforts and soothes her sensitive nervous system, her emotions. And she sees where her own stuff is getting in the way. And she decides how she wants to think about it and relate to those feelings. And then when she's ready, she comes back centered and in her heart and is able to communicate and resolve things from there and ask for what she wants in the future. This woman heading towards Real-Enchantment or already in it is also treasuring herself. First, internally, like consciously choosing to see how she's lovely and worthy and wonderful. She's focusing on what she loves about herself and then treating herself well from that space. And she's doing the same towards her partner. She's appreciating and loving her partner, first in her own head and then outwardly. With a hug here, a kiss there, other kind words here, right? Making the micro moments of day-to-day life count towards connection. She's communicating calmly and lovingly and with ownership and vulnerability. She's not doing the backfiring tactics of complaining and controlling and blaming or criticizing. Which, if I haven't made this clear in the past, is the basis for interacting in ways that lead to the best experiences and outcomes with our partner. Or if she does, if that happens, she's catching herself. And midway, or even afterwards, she's apologizing and taking ownership. She's initiating conversations, meaningful conversations, and she's listening with curiosity and empathy. She's asking good questions. She's speaking to what she wants. She's making requests versus complaining or blaming for how things aren't what she wants or how her partner didn't or isn't doing what she wants. She's not in overcare with her partner. She's not overcaring for him, meaning she's not giving so much to him and her family that she has nothing left for herself. Instead, she's prioritizing her own well-being with fun, doing things that are fun for her, with quiet time, with walks or exercise or time with friends, or with eating nutritious food and tending to her emotions. And of course, prioritizing whatever fills her up. She's also lovingly setting boundaries for herself, right? As an HSP, that's important, especially when her partner's behavior or her own behavior are kind of out of line. She's allowing her partner to do things his way and trusting him to contribute in his way on his timeline. But she's also asking for and accepting help when and where she needs it or wants it. And she's really working with her partner to get that help and get those needs and wants met in ways that work for both of them. So there's some creativity here, some creative problem solving here. And it's done without malice or antagonism. It's done with compassion and curiosity and kindness and respect and acceptance. And she's scheduling time for connection and physical intimacy and fun together with her partner. And she's following through on that, which can mean working through inner obstacles to doing these things, right? In other words, pushing through resistance, working through resistance, and making conscious decisions around investing time and energy into her relationship with her honey. So I'm sure there's more, but I don't want to take up your whole day. I did think I would give you a specific situation and kind of invite you into being, again, a fly on the wall in this specific kind of regular or not so perfect. This situation is one of those moments that's not a sweet moment just by itself, right? But is actually kind of a little challenge that came up between a client and her honey. And this is what it might look like. Every person would navigate this differently when she knew how to do these 3 things that I listed earlier, right? That take you into real enchantment. This is one example of how someone might navigate this specific situation where a client wanted to put up some shelves and her hubby put the shelf stuff away as she was trying to do it. And so she said, "Oh, it looks like you don't want to do it tonight." That's fine. And in response, her husband rolled his eyes. So if she was moving towards real enchantment or was already there, she would notice first off if her feelings swelled up, meaning if she felt a little hurt. And then she would, instead of saying anything or blaming him or trying to get him to be more respectful right away, she would lovingly offer herself some tenderness, some kindness, which may or may not mean saying to him hey, I'm going to just go spend 5 minutes alone. I'll be back in a few, and then leaving the room to go do so. This is really a good thing for highly sensitive women, by the way, especially when we're learning how to tend to our feelings. Then she would internally own that those feelings were coming from old stuff in her. That hurt that she was feeling was coming from some other stuff, not just this little roll of his eyes. And she'd lovingly remind herself that the fears and the hurt that is coming up don't mean what her lizard brain says, which is that he doesn't love her, that he disrespects her. She would in fact remind herself that he loves her, but has some weird stuff coming up emotionally for himself today that has nothing to do with her. And she would really just be supportively with herself until she felt back to knowing his love for her and her own love for herself, which actually would only take a few minutes. And then she would go back, centered, calm, feeling good. And she might just ask him about his day or if there was anything stressful that's been going on lately, and if so, how she can support him. Or she might just tell him she loves him so much, and it did hurt when he rolled his eyes, but that she knows it's not from a lack of love for her. And she might say, I'd so appreciate it if in the future something that I do bothers you, that you just tell me calmly so we can solve it together, because I want us to feel on the same team. And I love you and I love us. And then she'd sit back and receive the apology her partner's most likely to make, most likely even wanting to make. And she then invites him to do something that they both like doing together, like going to sit on the porch and watch the sunset while holding hands. So I want you to notice that all of this is coming from these three simple things that are really what you need to learn how to do, where you need to put the conscious effort in to learn how to do. Right? Loving the being that you are, loving and believing in, melting your negative emotion, and guiding yourself into emotions that foster love and connection. Right? That was just an example of putting all of that into action. And it's doing those kinds of things, like in these examples, in the hard moments of life together and the easier moments. And it's doing them over and over consistently. So being able to do these things that this woman that we've been watching as a fly on the wall, right? Being able to do these things well and naturally is actually kind of a behind the scenes, internal, invisible type of work. So, I mean, I could tell you to take the actions that I just like illustrated this woman taking, or what a woman in Real-Enchantment would take, but it really won't be easy or natural for you. In fact, it will be really hard for you if you haven't done the internal, invisible work, right? If you have emotional barriers. And for example, what I mean by that, like you're not going to go like give your hubby a hug if you're feeling really angry and resentful and annoyed at him. Like that's just not going to happen naturally. That's going to even be hard to make yourself do and will feel fake. And won't have the good, loving effect that you want it to, the positive effect that it would if you didn't feel angry and resentful, right? If you didn't have that emotional barrier there. So it's all going to be hard if you don't have the basic internal skills it takes to love and believe in yourself and your sensitivity, know how to move through and out of negative emotions, and know how to move into emotions that foster love and connection. And if I'm not being clear, knowing how to do that takes some basic skills. Like there's very tangible skills to be able to do those things. And learning this and doing this and putting this into action is what we do deeply in my program, Treasured. And it's why Treasured, when clients come work with me in Treasured, it totally shifts the tides in their marriage. So if you know you want a deeper love, if you want more lightheartedness and ease and laughter between you, more attraction and connection that truly lasts, absolutely join Treasured. You're going to learn all that you need. Do the deep internal work to really make real enchantment come alive in your marriage. And if you're still not sure you want to join us, come to next week's workshop, where we're going to, again, teach you one specific skill for each of these three things you must know how to do and get a little taste of this work. The direct links to join both of those things are in the show notes or over on lifeisworthloving.com. Before I go, let me say this again. You, as a highly sensitive woman, are uniquely suited to learn to guide yourself into a deep love of the full spectrum of your own and your partner's humanness. You're uniquely situated to guide your relationship into real enchantment. And I'm going to paraphrase what my client Luann said in that last episode. She just did an interview with me about her changes in her relationship. And she said this: we HSPs have so much to bring to the world that we don't even realize, because we're so reflective and insightful, and we really are so serious about wanting to get to a better place. Of course, I completely agree with her. I actually believe learning how to do these three things I've been talking about today to get to real enchantment is actually not very hard for us as HSPs. It really just takes a little bit of commitment and focused effort. When you learn and develop and implement regularly these three simple things, again, loving and believing in yourself and your sensitivity, knowing how to move through and out of negative emotion, and knowing how to move into emotions that foster love and connection. Once you do this and implement it regularly, you can truly show up with love for the very real humans you and your partner both are, and influence both of you in the most loving direction into this place of real enchantment. So you can truly enjoy and love being with each other and feel like a supportive and passionate team together in life for life. And so that instead of fading away as it does for so many, the quality of connection and love at the heart of your marriage just expands and deepens over time. So my friend, learn how to do these 3 things. Put in the effort and the time that it takes to develop these things. Learn the little skills that make up each of these 3 things. Join us in Treasured. Or if you want to start a little smaller, definitely join us in our workshop, 3 Invisible Steps to Deeper Love Than Ever Between You and Your Significant Other. Link to learn more about both and sign up for both or one or the other is in the show notes or over at my website, www.lifeisworthloving.com. Be oh so well.